For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quorum called.
Ms. Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Okay, coming in. If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 22nd, 2021.
Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal from the previous day.
So ordered. Petitions, memorials, and other papers. House bill amended in the Senate. House Bill 421. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 421, Income Tax Distribution, Tax Clinics for Low-Income Marylanders, Amendment number 1.
Recognize the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move not to concur with the Senate amendments.
Motion before the House is not to concur with Senate amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. The yeas have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Feldmark, Chair, Delegate Plakovich-Carr, and Delegate Buckle. Said bill is returned herewith. I got it.
Senate Bill 444, the clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 444, Transforming Manufacturing in a Digital Economy Work Group, Making It in Maryland.
Recognizes the chair of the committee.
Derek. Take this video. Is it UCM bill? Derek.
Thank you. Move to receive from the House amendments.
Motion before the House is to recede in the House amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The House has receded. The clerk will call the roll. Third reading and final passage.
Mr. Speaker?
It's already, he must have voted for me. Okay. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 444 has been received and constitutional majority is declared passed. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates recedes from its position on Senate Bill 444. Said bill is returned herewith.
Derek will do it. Question before the House is the. Oh, sorry.
Second reading calendar, Judiciary number 48. Just gotta say, Judiciary Committee report number 48. Clerk will read the bill.
Judiciary Committee report number 48. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 666, Courts of Appeal and Special Appeals renaming favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading.
Or is this the HTO proposed? Report of the Committee on Public Government Operations,
Report of the Committee on the House of Government Operations Committee, report number 30. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 172, Maryland Health Equity Resource Act, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any other amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. My job and duties are over.
Had to visit over in our annex. They all said hello. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 353, Veterans Benefits and Benefits Appeal Services, Disclosure Requirements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 360, State Government Notaries Public, Notary Public Fund, and Remote Notarial Acts, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 469, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Applied Behavior Analysis Services, Reimbursement, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 689, Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs, Duties of the Special Secretary, Minority Business Enterprises, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 736, Health Occupations Pharmacist, Administration of Children's Vaccine Study and Temporary Authority, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters, report number 45. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 95, Public Utilities, Investor-Owned Utilities, Prevailing Wage, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 392, Electricity and Gas Limited Income Mechanisms and Assistance, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 811, Unemployment Insurance, Computation of Earned Rate of Contribution, Applicable Table of Rates, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read the report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, report number 40. Clerk, read first bill.
Senate Bill 170, Transportation, Related Property, Prohibited Acts and Enforcement, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to ask if it would be possible to special order this bill until the next session, just to get a couple questions answered.
That's acceptable.
Question for the House is special order SB 170 to the appropriate time next session. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 318, Natural Resources, Fishing and Hunting Rights, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 501, Towing or Removal of Vehicles from Parking Lots, Placement of Signs, Regional Malls, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 681, Motor Vehicles Inspection Certificates, Exception, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 691, Real Property Landlord and Tenant Reusable Tenant Screening Reports, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 716, Solid Waste Management, Prohibition on Releasing a Balloon into the Atmosphere, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 31. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 770, Baltimore City Community College Procurement Authority, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments affect the dollar ceiling on procurements that must be approved by the Board of Public Works, and also require that there be a submission regarding conflict of interest. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 326, Baltimore City Community College Procurement Authority, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much to be considered the reading amendments. This amendment conforms the bill to the House bill that was just before us. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 649, Procurement MBE Program Compliance Review and Oversight, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much to be considered the reading amendment.
So ordered.
This amendment requires a special secretary for the Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs to assign certain staff to deal with the provisions of the bill. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 138 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 36. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 944, Anne Arundel County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses, Annual Fees.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 944, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 43. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 103, Business Regulation, Retail Pet Stores Modification, No More Puppy and Kitten Mills Act of 2021.
Okay. All right. Senate Bill 103 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 103, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 159, Local Government, Humane Society and Animal Control Officers, Education and Training Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 159, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 324, Environment and Natural Resources, Complaints, Inspections and Enforcement, Information Maintenance and Reporting.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 324, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 687, State and Local Housing Programs, Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 106 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 687, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 745, Health Occupation State Board of Massage Therapy Examiners, Revisions.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 745, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 857, Health, Maryland Behavioral Health and Public Safety Center of Excellence Establishment.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 857, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Special Order Calendar number 86. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 133, Local Tax Relief for Working Families Act of 2021. Favor report adopted.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel, who made the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I actually thought you were going to comment on my Orioles attire, but will the floor leader just rise for a couple questions before I offer the amendment?
Sure, thanks. Good
Thank
morning.
you. First of all, thank you for allowing me to special order yesterday. Currently in the counties, everybody's got a fixed rate. Am I correct on that as far as their income tax brackets?
Currently, counties only have the authority to apply the local income tax at a flat rate.
And that max is 3.2%?
Correct.
And that's staying the same?
Correct.
And there's a minimum rate right now it's 1%, and we're raising that as well?
It's raising to what is the current minimum that any county charges.
Which is 2.25%.
Correct.
So this is going to establish more of a progressive tax bracket for some counties that aren't already at the ceiling, correct?
So this doesn't establish tax brackets. It gives local governments the option of establishing tax brackets.
Okay, thank you. I've got an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 793422.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that some of these counties are going to be obviously put into some financial stress due to Kerwin and other things that they're going to have to help fund. But the intent of this bill, and I'm glad to see they didn't change the title, was this Local Tax Relief for Working Families Act. And I'm concerned that if we allow the counties to introduce a progressive tax rate, they're going to push everybody up to that max rate without really taking into consideration some of the local tax relief for the working families, the lower income people. And you've heard me stand up here and give testimony on how this has hurt so many low income families. And the counties actually have been flushed with federal funds, as we have, but that's going to end someday. And all I want to do is put an extra layer of protection in for these low income, struggling families that simply says, if a county decides to increase a tax bracket, that they must offset it and make it revenue neutral with a lower tax bracket. I am not in favor of progressive taxes, but if you're going to start to tax the rich, then I would hope that we ask these counties to give great consideration to the low income people and try to offset it. Because they can't always absorb this kind of tax. So I'm not asking the counties to take less. I'm just saying, don't take more from the quote-unquote wealthy, and at the same time, pick the pocket of the low-income people. And with that, I move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I would urge you to resist this amendment. This bill is about giving local governments greater authority in terms of considering the options of how they apply local income taxes. If this amendment were adopted, the bill, instead of providing our local governments with an additional option, would severely restrict their existing authority in terms of the local income tax. So I ask you to please vote against this amendment.
Madam Speaker,
Maker of the amendment.
I thank the floor leader for her comments, but I'm still confused on why the bill, the title then is Local Tax Relief for Working Families Act. Should it just be, let's give greater authority to the County Executives Act? Because once again, based on this bill and how it reads, it does nothing to help provide relief for working class families. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The problem that this bill is attempting to address is that currently our local governments do not have the option of providing additional relief to low-income families, to working families, to those who can least afford any additional tax rate or who need a tax break. Currently, our local governments do not have the authority to do anything other than a flat tax rate. This gives them the ability to provide relief to working families. Again, I ask my colleagues to resist this amendment.
Madam Speaker.
I don't know which one got up first, but
I know who you don't want to call, so.
I called you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate that. I do have a question for the floor leader, follow-up question. So I guess the indication is that under this particular bill, should it pass, some counties may reduce taxes?
Counties could reduce taxes.
Okay. When was the last time that happened in, let's say, Montgomery County?
What this bill would allow a county such as Montgomery County to do is reduce taxes only on the lower income portion of
Understood.
the population.
When was the last
that would
time
allow
that-
them to reduce taxes without taking the broad revenue hit that may be prohibiting them from reducing taxes at a flat rate.
I appreciate that. But when was the last time taxes such as the piggyback tax was reduced?
They've never had the opportunity to provide relief to working families. So this is a new opportunity
So I guess
we're
that
trying to give them.
segues into my next question, which is it, and correct me if I'm wrong because I honestly don't know this, but pursuant to local privilege, wouldn't a delegation by request of their county be able to come and change the law at the state level to be able to do this?
Our taxing authority applies to all counties.
Right.
The authority we grant applies to all counties.
Including for the piggyback tax, the income tax?
Yes, this applies to all counties.
No, so I understand that, but did Calvert County ask for it?
Not to my knowledge.
And that goes to local privilege, which is what my point is, because I'm certain that Calvert County did not request this because they most certainly would have.
And this does not impose anything on Calvert County. It gives them an option that they can choose not to exercise.
Sure. So essentially what it looks like then is that the bill's purpose is to impose in a voluntary way or to encourage in a voluntary way counties to implement, if you will, progressive income taxes. And does that sound about right?
It gives counties the authority to set a progressive tax rate, to set the income tax rate on a bracketed basis if they choose to.
Or they could lower taxes, but no county, certainly that I'm aware of, certainly not the counties that are pushing this, have ever really lowered taxes.
This certainly maintains their authority to lower taxes.
Got it.
It gives them a new authority to lower taxes for working families.
Got it. Thank you.
Gentleman from Talbot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Real quickly, this bill deals, when we're talking about these taxes, these are I talked about it earlier on the House bill, these are the piggyback taxes, correct?
This is the local income tax.
The local income tax, which is also referred to as the piggyback tax.
Yes, I believe you referred to it quite a few times that way.
Right. And when you talked about raising taxes on the wealthy or the rich, and hopefully bringing some benefit to lower income, do you have any statistics on the number of small businesses that are pass-through entities? Are you familiar with pass-through entities?
Yes.
Do you have any statistics on small businesses in Maryland and how many of them are pass-through entities?
How many of them are pass-through entities?
Correct.
I don't have that number off the top of my head. If you know it and want to share it, I'd be happy
No,
to continue.
actually, I don't. It's a big state and it's a diverse state and it's very different. I just know in my district, most of the businesses are small businesses, and I know most of the businesses in our district, small businesses, are pass-through entities. And my concern with this legislation is that they're going to be lumped in as being quote-unquote the rich or the wealthy because of their corporate structure. However, it doesn't accurately reflect their income. And to me, for our constituents that are small businesses that are going to get lumped into being categorized as the rich and wealthy, that if they're going to be doing that, they want some certainty that that the benefit is going to be extended to those who need it. And that's why I stand in support of the amendment. Thank you.
Gentleman from Queen Anne's and the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if that's so much a question, but it's on the amendment. I got my introduction into the General Assembly years ago when I was a county commissioner in Queen Anne's County. And when I became a commissioner, we inherited a deficit, a significant deficit. And I came to the state and met many of, some of you here that at that time pleading for some help from the state for the problems we had with my county, which was run pretty much into the ground dollar-wise. And one of the problems I had, and one of the issues that came up, in order to get relief from the state, what the state required from me was that we had to ensure them that our piggyback tax was maxed out. They were not going to help us if we were at a lower rate because they felt that the local jurisdictions had the ability to raise more taxes and that they should put that burden on them. And that's what they did to us. Sadly, we did raise our piggyback tax. We did have to do some other very, very difficult things that affected our county. And something like this bill and this amendment will do is hopefully tell people in the counties that it's a local choice and that you will not get that money from the state. Recall what we did to our counties back years ago when we took away highway user dollars. And I can assure you, not one county commissioner, I can't assure you that. I know my county did not support the removal of those dollars. And what we're doing right now, I think this should be made local and kept local because it's our decision and we are the ones that will be punished by any tax that you give us a cap on. And to go back to a comment made earlier, I cannot think of a time when we lowered taxes in my county. And I don't think any one of you can think of a time when we had the opportunity, if that tax was there, that we didn't take advantage of it. And I can assure you that this body will impose that problem on those counties when they come for help. Thank you, Madam Speaker, on the amendment.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is, once again, about local authority and giving our local governments another option in how they manage their county finances. Our local governments are best equipped to have the debate about what residents can afford, what revenues are needed. We're giving the option to the local governments. And on the issue of disparity grants, that is addressed in this bill. It has been amended to address that. So again, I urge you to resist the amendment.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A quick question for the floor leader.
Floor Leader.
I'm confused on this bill. Because on one hand, it says local tax relief for working families, but then it seems like the only provision in the bill is to create a progressive tax scale that would raise taxes on some people. There's no provision in the bill that actually provide any tax relief for working families. So my question is, what's the higher priority? Making sure the rich pay their fair share or giving money back to working families, as the bill title says?
So I want to go back to the beginning of your comment. This bill does not suggest raising taxes on anyone. It does not give counties any additional authority to increase the tax rate. All this bill does is give local governments the option of applying the local income tax at a bracketed rate, giving them the option of providing relief to working families without lowering the tax rate on all taxpayers which may be prohibitively expensive in terms of the county's revenues.
So, thank you for that explanation, but that also speaks towards the amendment. My understanding of the amendment would be if you did implement a bracketed tax system, money would have to be distributed back and cut on the lower brackets. This is a revenue neutral amendment. And it sounds like a good one because without this amendment, you could put a bracketed tax system in place and there's no guarantee working families would receive tax relief. So, Madam Speaker, on the amendment, I support this amendment. It only makes sense. There's truth in advertising with the bill number, with the bill title. And this should be a good amendment. Make sure taxes aren't raised on our own citizens. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a question for the floor leader.
Yes, sir.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
So I have, every day it seems, constituents who decide to move to Florida because they have no income tax in Florida. And I'm looking at this bill and I like the title, but I'm hearing that there actually isn't any relief for my constituents who are waitresses, waiters, servers, hairdressers, small business LLC owners that are bleeding out because of the pandemic. So is there anything in this bill as it stands before us today that I can tell my constituents who are hairdressers, small LLCs, pass-through entities, that they're going to get a tax relief from this bill?
You can tell them that this bill gives the county the ability to give them tax relief. This bill gives the counties the ability to set the income tax rate on a bracketed basis. Counties have the authority to set the local tax rate. They have a robust public process to change the local tax rate, and that would be a local decision.
Thank you for that answer. So on the amendment, because this bill has nothing in it to actually provide tax relief, I'll be voting no. Thank you. I'll be voting for the amendment to make sure that we provide that. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the majority leader.
I want to thank the floor leader for explaining this bill, I think now 14 different times, very clearly and cogently. And as she has tried to restate over and over, counties get to set their own tax rates. Right now, if they're having difficulty with their revenues and they need to raise revenue, they have to increase taxes on the poorest of the poor if they want to touch the income tax rates. If they want to, say, give some tax relief to the poorest of the poor, they also have to reduce taxes on people who are doing just fine. Just fine. All this amendment does is it says, so look, there are three possibilities if this law passes. One, a county could decide that it wants to provide tax relief for working people. So it drops the piggyback tax rate for the lowest income folks and keeps it where it is right now for the higher income folks. Two, it could do what this amendment's talking about, where they increase the rate on the highest income folks, decrease it on the lowest income folks, and keep it revenue neutral. Three, a county who needs additional revenue could get it by only increasing taxes on the highest income folks and keeping the lowest income folks at the rate they're at now. In all three of those scenarios, working people benefit. And if you ask the question over and over and get that answer and then turn around and say working people aren't going to benefit, you're just misunderstanding the bill. So, I appreciate, I think the reality, the real opposition on the bill is do you believe in progressive taxation or not? Like, if you believe in flat taxes, cool, let's have that debate. Vote against the bill, right? And to the maker of the amendment, who's saying they want to get rid of the scenario where a county could increase taxes on the highest bracket folks and just keep the lowest income folks the same, I mean, we can have that, that's a fair argument. But what this amendment does is it takes away local control. And it reduces the number of scenarios under which working people would have a lower tax rate than wealthier people. So I'd ask you, alongside the floor leader, to resist the amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning. The reason I support this amendment and oppose this bill is Maryland is one of the highest tax states in the nation. The taxes in this state are higher than the vast majority of the nation. Don't take my word for it. All you have to do is look at the Tax Foundation's annual report, and we're always somewhere between 3 and 7. I'd be surprised if you don't hear from especially senior citizens around retirement related to the economic decisions that they have to make for themselves as to whether they need to uproot from their lifelong home, leave their family, kids, and grandkids behind, and maybe go someplace close like Delaware, which is pretty good to most retirees. Pennsylvania is great for pensioners, but many people are moving to the Carolinas and Florida to avoid the heavy hand and burden of taxation here in this state. I remember when Martin O'Malley passed the millionaire's tax. The economic data showed that many of those people moved from Montgomery County and fled to nearby Fairfax County. I also remember certain senators in this chamber begging, or in the chamber across the way, begging Martin O'Malley not to move forward with that. Fortunately, that's been rescinded, and Maryland has been moving in a better direction as it relates to a lot of different types of taxation. But the problem with this bill is we're saying, trust us, we'll be easy on the lower and middle income folks. But there's no guarantee, despite our efforts to accomplish that through amendments. And what we do know is that some places in Maryland, and I fear in my county in Anne Arundel, they're going to raise taxes on higher earners. And I know it sounds good, it's easy, politically convenient, but the bottom line is those policies turn out to be real losers for states like Maryland. And it's to the benefit of other states. So I urge adoption of the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can I ask the floor leader a quick question? I think you may have answered the question.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Which county asked for this bill?
MACO, the Maryland Association of Counties, was supporting this legislation.
Right,
They-
but
they were the
which-
primary advocate for the legislation.
Which specific county asked for it, though?
This was a MACO initiative on behalf of the counties of Maryland.
Okay. One of the biggest things that we have here as elected officials, I think there's a lack of trust in government. And every year we come here to Annapolis. When we leave, our constituents tell us what happened, and we have to tell them, you're going to be taxed higher, you're going to be poorer, and you're going to be less free. And if we're going to be honest with them, this title here lacks the integrity of honesty. If you want to be honest, you want to say, this bill will lower taxes on working families, then call it that. But call it potentially and highly unlikely. But don't call it that this bill is a local tax relief for working families, because it will not give a relief for taxes for any working families. So I support the amendment, but I do oppose the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I want to ask you once again to resist this amendment. To clarify, this bill does not raise taxes. It does not grant counties any new authority to raise taxes. There is no tax increase or potential for a tax increase newly created by this bill. This bill gives counties the option, as they consider their local finances, to provide relief to working families. That is an option they currently do not have, and one which we think they should have. So I ask you to resist this amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee, Ways and Means.
Questions for the floor leader?
Good
I've
morning.
heard from, good morning. I've
Floor
heard from
leader.
several people on the floor today that this would give the counties the authority to raise their piggyback tax. So I have a question. For the counties that are currently not at 3.2%, without this bill, do they have the authority today to increase their income taxes?
They do. This bill does
Thank
not
you.
affect their
Thank
authority.
you. Without this bill, could they reduce their, create brackets and allow for lower rates for people?
They could not.
Thank you.
Gentleman from Caroline.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have a couple questions actually for the floor leader. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of a different angle on this one. So for the counties, in order to maximize their disparity grant, they have to have a 3.2% local income tax. Is that correct?
Not with this bill.
No, I mean, just that's the current law, though. In order to maximize the amount that they're going to get in the disparity grant, they have to have the maximum.
To maximize, yes.
Okay, and so I know my county has already, in order to maximize that, I believe several others, especially on the Eastern Shore, the poorest counties are maxed out on their local piggyback tax. So right now, can they lower taxes for anyone without lowering their income tax for everyone? Does that make sense?
So currently, if I'm understanding your question correctly, currently they could not lower the local income tax rate for just a certain segment of the population. If they lowered the local income tax rate, they would have to lower it for everyone, and then they would no longer be able to maximize the disparity grants.
All right, so
what this bill would do would allow them to lower the tax rate for lower income folks and still maintain the maximum disparity grant.
Correct. So for the poorer counties who are maxed out on their local income tax, and if they still want to maximize their disparity grant, this vehicle is the only way that they can actually lower taxes for the folks who live in their county.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I'll be voting for the bill.
Is there any further debate? If not, on the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker?
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 49. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 190, Firearms, Right to Purchase, Possess, and Carry, Use of Medical Cannabis. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 establishes various requirements and prohibitions relating to the manufacturing, assembling, owning, possessing, or transferring firearms, covert firearms, undetectable firearms, unfinished frames, and receivers. Establishes penalties for violations of the bill's provisions relating to untraceable and undetectable firearms. Requires the Secretary of State Police to suspend or revoke a dealer's license under specified conditions, and requires a handgun qualification license before dealer or other person is authorized to sell, rent, or transfer an unfinished frame or receiver, or a person is authorized to purchase, rent, or receive an unfinished frame or receiver with specified exemptions. Amendment number 3 is technical. I move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Question that was adopted on favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd just asked if we could special order this bill to the appropriate time tomorrow.
Question for the House is special order SB 190 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered until the appropriate time tomorrow. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker?
Calendar of third reading, House. No, clerk will take the call. There being 136 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 103. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 582, Cecil County Sales and Use Tax Exemption, Federal Facilities, Redevelopment Areas.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 582, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 104. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 132, Health, Mental and Emotional Disorders, Consent Mental Health Access Initiative.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We heard a lengthy debate about this bill yesterday, and all I wanted to say is very passionate debate by people that I have a lot of respect for. I heard things about people's lives that, brings back the old axiom that you really don't know someone, you don't know the shoes in which they walk and the experiences that have brought them to this house until you hear their stories. I feel completely not qualified to really even vote sometimes on bills like this. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know how to tell parents how to raise their children. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a student counselor, youth counselor. I don't know. If there is a silver bullet and a piece of legislation that we can pass, that we can say definitively, this is going to stop youth suicides, or this is going to cause more problems for youths. It's a complex problem that I'm not really sure that a state legislature is competent to solve with a single piece of legislation. But one phrase that we've all heard for the last 13, 14 months is trust the experts, follow the science. And whether you believe in that or not, I think you have to make a choice that if you do believe in that, you believe it uniformly, not just when it suits you. I believe these experts, but not that experts. I follow this science, but not that science. Because that's politics, not science. And I've seen the testimony that was placed in letters, at least, before people who we view to be experts in this field. The Maryland Psychological Association, my friend and colleague from Harford and Baltimore counties, mentioned that yesterday, where they suggested very clearly, this is just plain English, most preteen and younger teenage children do not have the cognitive capacity to consent to such treatment without parental involvement, and it is not developmentally appropriate to expect them to be able to do so. Position, oppose. The Maryland Psychiatric Society said the exact same thing. Almost every effective strategy, this is their words, not mine, they're the experts, at treating younger children with mental illness benefits from the involvement of the parent or guardian. Parent or guardian involvement undisputably increases the effectiveness of most therapies, and some interventions require such participation to even occur. And the Maryland Department of Health Board of Nursing, their words, the board does not believe that minors as young as 12 years old have the capacity to understand the processes that may be required in mental and emotional health treatments. There's no silver bullet. Kids are different, families are different. Maybe there is one kid out there, two kids out there. And my friend from Montgomery County talked about that yesterday and meant it with all of his heart. That if there's even one kid that maybe this would help, maybe it's worth it. There might be one kid or one family that it hurts. And because I don't know the answer to that, I'm going to trust the experts. I'm going to trust the people in the field and what they've said. And I'm going to vote against the bill. And I'm going to hope and pray that once again, you guys are right and I'm wrong. I'm going to hope and pray that this bill works, that this bill does good things. But I hope we all acknowledge that I think we are going against the weight of what experts would tell us.
Thank you.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. To the nice gentleman that just spoke, the committee heard from many experts. In fact, there were more people in support, probably 4 times as much that they were opposed. MEDCA is neutral, but the pediatricians supported, the social workers, the health officers. And I want to tell this body a story. We heard from the health officer from Calvert County, Larry Polsky, and he talked about how he had a young lady, 14 years old, in his office that was brought to his office that was having some mental and emotional issues, and how the mom did not consent to her treatment, how difficult it was for her to get that treatment, for him to be able to do it. He could not do it. His hands are tied. Because in our state, you have to be 16 to be able to consent. If you're not, you need a parent to consent. What happens when that parent has emotional problems themselves? When those parents do, they cannot consent. What happens when you have a 13-year-old that needs help and needs this emotional help and treatment, and the parent says, no, my religion does not allow it. No, you deal with it. No, you're stronger than that. That is what happens. This bill doesn't take the parent out of the equation. To the contrary, it is very clear in the bill. It states that when the healthcare provider that is licensed determines that it is helpful and beneficial for the parent to be involved, they will do it. It is only when it's harmful that they won't allow it. And it is the practice of social workers and counselors as they deal with these children to involve the parent if it is healthy. There are kids that do not have that option. And the data, the science is so clear that the suicide rate has gone up by more than 50%. Colleagues, our kids are dying. They're killing themselves. We heard from the hospitals that during this coronavirus period, almost a year, that the visits have gone up in the ER. And then not only have they gone up for mental health, but colleagues, when they have spoken with these kids, they have found out that these kids have a plan. Not only have they thought about killing themselves, but they actually have a plan. This is a good bill. Please vote for it.
Madam Speaker.
Young lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate hearing the expanded explanation of the purpose of this bill. I've got grave concerns now hearing that the goal of this bill is to go around a family's religious values and step on their religious values to ensure that a child is able to consent to a medical treatment that goes against what the family's beliefs are. That's horrifying. Everyone in here should be horrified if that is the goal of this bill. We already have laws in place if you're denying your child life-saving medical treatment. That's unacceptable. Our state doesn't tolerate it. We have Senate laws for that very purpose. But to go around for a non-life-saving treatment a family's moral and religious beliefs is absolutely unconscionable. This state was founded on religious freedom. We were the one state that said, Catholics and Jews, come here, be part of our society. That's our state. What we're talking about today, going around a family's religious beliefs, is despicable, Madam Speaker. I will be a very strong red vote, and I hope the body will support me.
Gentlelady from Montgomery in the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So there's been a lot of really
strong rhetoric around this bill, and I just wanted to make sure that the body understood that this, in my opinion, is a very reasonable, measured, and proven approach to the problem that the Vice Chair described. We already in Maryland have a system in place for teenagers to receive important health care for conditions that may make them feel shame or embarrassment or stigma. We have had this in place for years. We recognize that it is in the public interest to ensure that teenagers access the health care that they need for substance use treatment, for sexual assault, for sexually transmitted infections. What we're doing is adding mental health to that list of conditions that they can seek treatment for in this already proven system. Furthermore, we already have mental health on that list for teenagers who are 16 and 17. So all we're doing is adding those teenagers who are 12 to 15 to that already existing system. That I would add is a system we know works. How do we know it works? We have the complaint data from the licensing boards for the folks who've been treating the 16 and 17-year-olds. We have not had any disciplinary action for licensed professionals who have been disregarding or abusing this system. We have heard testimony from the licensed counselors and social workers and pediatricians and health officers about how they work to include parents in these critical, important moments in their teenagers' lives. We know that what they do is they form a bridge between a troubled child who is suffering. They help them find the words and the ways to communicate with their parents when they can't, when they're really in crisis and they need help. These licensed professionals are experts at helping these young people. So lowering the age from 16 to 12 for the professionals who are doing this is giving us another tool to help those young people who are most in need. And many of you know I have a 14-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter, and I thought a lot about this bill and how important it is. And when I asked my 16-year-old daughter, do you think it's appropriate to lower the age to 12? She said without missing a beat, absolutely. Those are the hardest years, 13, 14, 15. Those are the years when my friends were struggling the most and had the most challenging relationships with their parents and contemplated suicide. And I think that this is a very important thing for us to be doing, but I do not want the body to be confused. This is not a radical measure. This is a common sense measure, a system that works. We are trusting our licensed healthcare providers who know how to do this well. So I would urge the body to vote green on this. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from Charles.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I have 3 daughters, as everybody always knows, 3 teenage girls. I have a 13-year-old. And, listening to this debate, this is very tough. And you guys heard me stand up yesterday. I was automatically in arms because I'm a daddy, and I want to know that my children are being taken care of, and I know that I'm the best person for that. But I also know at this point in time, for my 13-year-old, if she wants to receive some mental health treatment, I have to set it up. I have to accompany her. I have to consent to a treatment plan, and I'm the one who pays. So if my 13-year-old comes up to me and says, Daddy, I'm depressed, I mean, I know what my life has been like. I know how amazing her life is. What the hell do you think I'm going to say? Suck it up. Man up. Are you kidding me? You're depressed? Or I just may not believe in this psychobabble they call counseling. The problem with that is, then what's her recourse? Currently, nothing. That's a problem. But I also want to talk about what this provides for these victims, these people living in those little homes, in that hell. And I know you say, well, no, because once they tell the counselor, well, then they're obligated to report. But see, you don't understand. Some people don't want to tell because that's their loved one, but what they want to do is they want to have a home. Because as soon as they tell, they no longer have a home. So they're trying to negotiate how this is going to work. At 12, I would have loved to have someone just to talk through what I was going through. Because the damage that was done from those stages 12 to 16 was incalculable. And I'm not talking about the physical pain. I'm not talking about the abuse, because those things really do fade. It's that mental anguish of, oh, this is what I deserve. This abuse is normal. Those touches are the only kind of love that I will ever get. I can't imagine how much of my humanity would have been salvaged if I just had someone to tell me it's not your fault. That never happened, which is why you see that broken husk walking around. It's me. We need every opportunity to protect our children. And I know many of you are great parents, and you can't imagine somebody taking that choice from you. But not everybody is a great parent, I promise you. And these kids live in their hell, and they suffer each and every day. And like I said, the damage is they believe that this is normal. So when they get older, they get a spouse who abuses them. Or even worse, as I've said many times before, they return that horrible type of love to their children. If there's any chance that we could step in and intercede, if we can help these children, if we can bridge the gap between the parent and the child, religious or not, through counseling, if we can provide a mental safe haven for those little babies who suffer in hell every day, just so they know it's not your fault, then it's worth it. I ask that you vote green on this bill. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the gentlelady, Madam Vice Chair. I want to reiterate, though, something that we discussed earlier on this bill, and that is the right of parents. Today is World Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I'm wearing a mask that has a picture of the Nuremberg trials. And one of the things that was interesting and very sad in the Nuremberg trials was the fact that medical professionals interfered with parental rights. And what was the result of those trials? Well, the European Union passed the European Commission on Human Rights, guaranteeing that never again will the state and the healthcare community interfere with the rights of parents, the right to family. And that's what this bill does.
Madam Speaker, point of personal privilege.
I have the floor, Madam Speaker.
Point of personal privilege, she invoked. Madam Chair.
I am enormously affronted as a Jew when you in any way compare this bill to the Holocaust, especially today. Shame on you.
I'm not, Madam Speaker?
Gentlemen, please get on with your
I'm not
point.
comparing the bill to the Holocaust.
On the bill. Please get on the bill.
This bill interferes with the sacred right of parents and their children. That is a fact. That is exactly what this bill does. It violates the United States Constitution, particularly, as I discussed earlier, children 12 to 15 are in the most impressionable time of their lives. How dare we interfere with their right to family life, their right to religion as their parents see fit? That is what is at stake here. And that is why this bill should never have a green vote. And I'll be voting red for that reason. Thank you.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you. Look, you can vote green or vote red, but don't make the bill into what it's not. This bill doesn't deal with the Constitution. This bill does not take a parent's right away. It does not terminate a parental right. The bill clearly states on page 2, line 33, line 28, that a health care provider can involve the parent unless it's detrimental. That is what the bill does. And you can go ahead and not look at the data, but the governor's report on suicide is very clear. It is very clear that Maryland middle schools, 22.9% of them have thought of killing themselves. That 18% of Maryland high school students have reporting, not just thinking, have attempted to kill themselves. It also says that the results from the National Survey on LGBTQ youth mental health report it says that 48% of the LGBTQ youth have engaged in self-harm in the last 12 months. And that the suicide rate among those children have raised to more than 60% because they don't feel comfortable talking to just everyone. And because they, unfortunately, in 2021 are judged and they don't feel comfortable. They're not respected. It also says that the American Indian community, which we have 59,795 individuals living in Maryland today, they have the highest suicide rate among every single group. The report also says that the rate of black kids, and we talked about black children, someone brought them up earlier, especially boys, have increased significantly the suicide rate, while it decreased significantly for white youth. And it says, quote, in youth ages 10 to 19 years old, 10 to 19 years old, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And in 2017, over 3,000 youth died by suicide in this age group. That is the math. Those are the numbers. So we may stand here and argue and disagree philosophically about it, but the committee looked at it, and we made a bill that is sensible, that actually allows for parents to be involved, but it gives a child who's less than 16 an opportunity to see and speak to someone to seek help. Plain and simple. That is what the bill does. Nothing else.
Gentlelady from Howard and Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am so pleased to see this bill because it centers around the child and not around the parent. And I think that it's really important that we recognize that kids under the age of 16 do experiment with drugs, and we've allowed them to seek counseling and help without seeking parental permission. They get involved in sexual activity, and we allow them to seek support and help if they're concerned about that behavior without parental activity. They get depressed, they get bullied, they have concerns, and what we don't do is allow them to seek help without parental permission. This bill does nothing to undermine good parenting. And I think it's, in my experience, somewhat absurd to think that the only preteens and teenagers who run into problems are ones who have bad parents. Good parents have children who run into emotional, psychological, and just teenage type of issues. And some of the reasons they don't want to raise it to their parents include not wanting to bother their parents because their parents are so busy, being afraid or ashamed that they'll somehow be disappointing to their parents to admit that they're struggling a little bit. Sometimes it is that they have parents they can't trust or no parent at all. But I think we fool ourselves into trying to think that this bill is only going to help a very narrow number of preteens and young teens. And if a teenager or a preteen who is going through an emotional or psychological difficulty has the wherewithal to go to their parents and say, I need help, God bless them. But for us to stand here on this floor and prioritize whether a parent feels insulted, that their child doesn't feel comfortable for them, and we'd rather have that child suffer than seek help by any safe door possible, is pretty outrageous to me. So I'm so glad
that we worked this bill, and I want to thank the floor leader, the vice chair, for making it clear what this bill does and what it doesn't do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the previous question.
Question for the House is to move the previous question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. House Bill 132 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from Western Maryland to explain his vote. In the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and body. To explain my no vote, we have heard a lot of debate on this issue. It's been an interesting debate. I think really what this comes down to is, do we support parental rights or do we support the government rights above the parents? You know, children can already go to school counselors. That's not prohibited by law right now. And this bill, we keep hearing again and again, well, the counselor has the option to go to the parent as long as it's not going to harm the child. And to that I'm saying, how patronizing. You know, parents are the ones that are raising the kids. Parents are the ones that can help the kids the most. And that allows the counselor, it's a may. They don't have to go to the parent. They may, if they feel like it, go to the parent. You know, parents need to be involved, and I'm voting no so that parents can have the rights that they need to have so that the kids can get the most help that they need. I think a green vote, unfortunately, hurts kids. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've made a lot of assumptions.
Explain your vote.
Yes, but to explain your vote. Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill makes a ton of assumptions. We're assuming that only children of bad parents have mental health issues. Right? We've heard over and over again, this won't affect good parents, this only affects bad parents. I've heard that said several times. That was said several times during the debate, that this wouldn't affect good parents. I've heard that, this doesn't affect the Constitution. Every single bill we pass here is impacted by the Constitution. I've heard that 12-year-olds can make their own decisions for their mental health. Yet we've passed bills in this very body and heard the argument over and over again that children who commit crimes, their brains aren't fully developed, therefore we need to give them some room and some opportunity to re-enter society, right? And to pay their debt to society because they didn't understand the decisions they were making at those ages. All at the same time, we're saying a 12-year-old can make a decision for themselves that now I can't make. We're saying we're trying to work around an individual's religious freedom behind the parents. I mean, we're making a ton of assumptions and a ton of mandates here that are just way out of line. And this bill is very alarming as a parent, as someone who has seen bad parenting, has someone who thinks he's at least a decent parent now. And again, as I mentioned yesterday, if my kid, my 12-year-old, 13-year-old, has some kind of mental trauma and I'm not informed about it, and they make a decision to take their own life, and I was not informed about it, I would never forgive myself.
Gentlemen, time is up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm voting no.
Remind everyone you have 2 minutes to explain your vote.
Madam Speaker.
I don't know who. Gentleman from Talbot.
Thank you, Speaker, and I'll be quick. The explanation, I'm defending my vote, my no vote. It was mentioned that the parenting, there was a discussion about bad parents and good parents, and a discussion about parents, and I just, You know, the idea or the analogy that was given to us, or the hypothetical about the child who needs therapy, but the parent, it won't let the child get the therapy. These are really complicated situations, and the child in that situation, in many of these situations, is already traumatized by the time they go to get therapy. And my objection to the bill is that you need parents involved in the counseling process, and to invoke a new right or a new power to empower children based off of all the other information they're getting right now in school, and the confusion and the depression and the problems that have been created by virtual learning. I think you're setting up a very serious situation for a lot of children. I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. One is outspoken, the other's introverted. There's no therapist, and we've got some very good ones that can diagnose that with one visit. And I am scared to death how this will impact some child who goes into a therapist without the help and the advice and the counseling of either a parent, a guardian, or someone else to give them some advice. So stand by my red vote, and thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I don't know who stood up for next.
How about the
Gentleman
tallest?
from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I think the floor leader would attest that she and I have worked on this type of issue several times together. We're not always on the same page, but I love her passion and her emotion, and I think that she would agree that both of us would do anything to stop the teen suicides. My high school is now nicknamed Suicide High, and it's sad, and I've had best friends have to deal with it. But when we talk about this, everybody keeps saying, well, we don't know what the real answer is. We don't have a great answer. So in those cases, I look at the experts, and one of the most, I guess, moving testimonies is from the Maryland Psychological Association. These are the people at the top of their game. They're dealing with this every day. This is a tough bill, and I would do anything to stop the problems. But one of the things that really pushed me to vote against this bill, I couldn't fathom telling a parent, your child has ended its life, or his or her life, or my child has done the same, and somebody else knew about it and didn't think I was fit or they were fit enough. Even the worst parent would run through the flames of hell to save their child if they could. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam
Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from Anne Arundel. Excuse me, now. All right, sat down. So the gentleman from Montgomery, chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee.
The delegate representing Gaithersburg and Rockville. My mother's twin brother took his life in the 1940s. We knew he was, the family knew he was troubled, but we don't really know why, because he did not feel comfortable speaking to his parents, my grandparents, or his siblings, and he had nobody to talk to. And so, Madam Speaker, I wish he had had someone to talk with. And I'm casting this vote in honor of the uncle I never met, Sudhakar Shankar Gokhale.
Okay. No further debate?
Madam Speaker.
Explain the
Madam
vote.
Speaker.
Gentleman from Frederick. Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to just make sure that Madam Chair understands my heart and apologize for any improper comparison. That wasn't my intent at all. I think I didn't get to finish my point, had actually to do with the sacredness of parental rights. And personally, I just want you to know that I've been raised to absolutely love and remember the struggle of the Jewish faith and of the Jewish religion and of our dear friends. And my great-great-grandmother actually is Jewish from Eastern Germany. And when I walked the halls of Auschwitz, I want you to know I wept. I actually walked into the gas chamber and saw that. And so I just, absolutely want you to know how much that impacts me. And the desire that I had and that I am trying to clarify.
Is the gentleman explaining his vote?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Is that the reason I'm a red vote on this is because of that sacred parental right. The history of parental rights in our Constitution and in the constitutions of the civilized world are so sacred. And honestly, the 12 to 15-year-old time, as we know, is an impressionable time. And of all the needs, as we know before the committee, was that the mandate to have more parental involvement is what can help to save these kids, not have the opportunity to cut those parents out. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to explain my vote.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand for the green vote, and particularly because we passed the Juvenile Restoration Act. And I think a number of my good colleagues made comments over this last several weeks that we should be doing more on the front end to get people the type of treatment that they need. And I remember a colleague of ours who's now gone to become the council president in Baltimore City talk about trauma-informed care for our youth and how it's so important for us to get them the type of mental health treatment that they need when they are so young so that they don't go down the wrong path and then they have to utilize something like the Juvenile Restoration Act that we passed. So I think this is a phenomenal bill. I thank the bill's sponsor. I hope people will vote green for it so that we are doing the preventative work, not just to prevent suicide, but prevent many other harmful things from happening that people experience. Trauma-informed care is the way. Thank you.
Gentleman.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Explaining my green vote, I want to thank everyone in this room today who weighed in on this bill. I listened to the debate very carefully. After yesterday, I was completely torn. I didn't have any idea which way I was going to be able to vote on this. And it started out with a very good explanation of just that from another delegate, the gentleman from Western Maryland. And the course of the debate has been truly enlightening, and I appreciate the work of the committee on the floor today, explaining the details of, because it's true, some of the experts are divided on this, and as legislators, we try to rely on science and on the experts, but when we get conflicting information, the committee did its work. It listened carefully to all the experts and brought that to the floor and explained it. And it made me think about people that I know and children that I know, that I grew up with, who had issues and didn't know what to do. It was not the kind of thing people talked about. And some of these things are things that can only be dealt with through medical intervention. But they'll never get that diagnosis if they don't see somebody, and they may never see somebody if their family is either too busy, too distracted, or in denial to ever even think about doing that. And this is another opportunity to save not just one child's life, but many over the next generation. And that's why I'm voting green today. Thank you to the committee.
Gentleman from Caroline.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I'm going to read just the first two sentences of the purpose paragraph of this bill. By altering the minimum age at which a minor has the same capacity as an adult to consent to consultation, diagnosis, and certain treatment of mental or emotional disorder. Now, we're talking about 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-olds. They're not stable 12, 13, 14-year-olds. They're 12, 13, and 14-year-olds who have mental and emotional disorders. And we're going to treat them as adults, provided providing that a health care provider may, not shall, but they may decide to provide certain information to a certain parent, guardian, or custodian under certain provisions of the law. They may, if they choose to do so. The discretion is up to one person, that therapist or that counselor, as to whether or not they're going to share all that information with the parent. The bill doesn't define a good parent or a bad parent. It doesn't do that. It treats every parent exactly the same. It treats every child exactly the same. So that counselor, despite whether or not that parent is good or they're not good, they may choose to decide whether or not to inform the parent about what they're going to do to their child. That's terrible. That's awful. I can't believe that we're going to pass a bill that's going to do that. And that's the reason why I'm voting red on this bill. Thank you.
Clerk will take the call. "92 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 132, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate bills number 49. The clerk will read the first bill.
Do you have 49? No, 49. Oh, it is. I'm sorry. Senate Bill 41, Health, Mental and Emotional Disorders, Consent, Mental Health Access Initiative.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Mr. Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore City.
Since this is the cross-file of the previous bill, I would just like to say that Telford Taylor succeeded Justice Jackson as the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg. And I was privileged to have him as a constitutional law professor. And among the many things that he taught us were that one does not likely make a comparison to the Holocaust, and one does not lightly make an assertion that a legislative act is unconstitutional. I'm very proud to vote for this bill.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Take the call. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 92 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 41, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 111, Healthcare Facilities, Dialysis Treatment Services, Training, David Selby Dialysis Parity Act.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 111, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 514, Health Facilities, Hospitals, Medical Debt Protection.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 514, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 717, State Personnel Collective Bargaining, Exclusive Representative Access to New Employees.
The gentleman from Talbot, Indiana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And on the bill, I want to thank the chairman of the committee for answering a couple questions, and I kind of caught her off guard. So as I was reading the bill and I got the answer I was looking for, that the bill encourages the employee to meet with exclusive representatives. It does not require the employee to meet with exclusive representatives. So while I oppose the bill because I think it's unnecessary to give anyone more information that an employee would be willing to give for the purpose of collectively bargaining or trying to get people to join a union. My primary concerns seem to be not founded based on how the bill's coming through, and I oppose the bill, but I want to thank the committee for taking my questions.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 717, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 744, State Board of Nursing, Certified Nursing Assistant Advisory Committee, membership and meetings.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 744, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 815, Mental Health Facilities, Sexual Abuse and Harassment, Reporting and Prevention.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 815, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 923, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, eligibility.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 923, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Special order calendar number 84. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 22, On-Site Sewage Disposal Systems Inspection Licensing, bill on third reading.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County who made the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really appreciate the chair giving me the opportunity to review this bill. I have ordered an amendment. If you'll just bear with me while I pull up the number really quick. It is amendment number 603226.
Amendment number 1.
So much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So in reading this bill, I did realize that, and actually, I guess there's changing in the education requirement that's happening, but also we're putting a very hefty fee in there. If you want to look in your floor systems, you'll see the fee is up to $10,000. And as we all know, our state and our small businesses are struggling terribly right now. And so increasing the penalty of these businesses who may not have all of their I's dotted and their T's crossed at this very difficult time seems a little excessive, and especially considering how high the fee is. So my amendment is very simple. It drops it down to $500 per violation, so we can make sure that we're not coming down with the heavy hand of government on small businesses during a time when they can least afford it. And I would press my amendment, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for sharing your amendment. I would urge the body to resist the amendment. First and foremost, I want to essentially say this bill passed almost unanimously in the not only the House but the Senate committees. It also essentially is not needed. I mean, up to $10,000 and not to exceed. Let me put it this way. A septic tank is essentially a household's largest appliance. And when something goes wrong with that, we're looking at thousands upon thousands of dollars to potentially repair. And so if someone is in violation, the MDE can make the discretion how much they want to charge the violator. And so while it says up to or not to exceed $10,000, they could decide that the individual may not need a violation, or they may decide that they need a $500 violation, or they may decide that it is so excessive that they want to charge them more. So it is at their discretion to charge what they would like and what they believe would be the offense. So I would urge the body to resist the amendment.
Maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was my understanding of the bill, and perhaps I just misread it, that the penalty is actually not going to the owner of the device, of the septic system. It's going to the people that are supposed to be checking them. So not the, I mean, it would be even more unacceptable if it was up to $10,000 penalty because somebody's septic system broke on their property. But my understanding of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was that the penalty is to be levied against a business that is checking the septic systems. Is that?
That if you are not licensed, first of all, so that's a violation in and of itself. And the so we're looking at the Senate bill, SB 22. The cross file, HB 407, was changed in the Senate, and this new bill, the one we're going to vote on now, Senate bill, if you're on page 3, line 8, number 2, each on-site sewage disposal system that an individual knowingly inspected without a valid on-site wastewater property transfer inspection license constitutes a separate violation of this section. So there's two violations. There's the not having the license, but also an individual who violates the subsection of this, essentially not having any other proper credentials, is subject to another violation. So there's up to 2 different violations, but the point being is that that is the discretion of them to charge what they would like. And so one may not get a $10,000 violation, but it says up to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That. Okay. So I think I understand. So now people, is this new regulation then that people have to have multiple licenses to do the same job, or?
No. Let me give you some quick back history. So as I understand it, in the past, inspections of a septic system, current law, property transfers must complete an MDE approved course in a proper, of course, inspection of septic systems, and then certify to the department that they've taken the course. And then inspectors also have to show evidence that they've completed that course to their customers. This bill changes that because the MDE used to be the individuals that certified. They no longer do it, and provide about 3 third-party companies that can do the certification, and then they post those individuals with now these licenses on site. So what happens now is that what we're saying is, in order to be able to appropriately, essentially professionalizing this, in order to do this, you need to show MDE that you've actually done the training, that you're going to have this on-site actual permit to be able to check this. And then it says you need to, under the bill, and let me go back to these pages so I'm correctly quoting this. Page 2, it says what they can, right? So page 2, line 24, under the subsection, shall require that the training include instruction on determining whether an on-site sewage disposal system is, 1, in need of replacement or repair, and 2, not in compliance with the statutory or regulatory requirements, and each inspection reported by a license holder follows the inspection formatted provided by the department. And so upon passage of this bill, come January or by January, the department needs to set up those internal regulations to regulate this process, and then by next year, July 2022, the process starts where we actually are monitoring these systems.
Okay, thanks for that. So the education piece is changing. How is it changing? Are we Are we more prescriptive? I don't see any. What's specifically for the education piece?
So
What's changing?
historically, again, MDE again used to offer the course that apparently was like an hour training.
Okay.
They have now approved. They have 3 approved third-party training courses that are listed on their site. That individuals would have to use these specific training organizations to be able to be trained.
Okay. Okay.
So it's easier then to prove, of course, that they've been trained.
Yeah. Okay. So, and how much do you know the change in the cost of the education when it was under MD and when it's in this third party? Has it been?
I actually don't know that the cost of the actual training.
Okay. So
to be full disclosure, it used to be free under MD when MDE used to.
Oh. Okay. Okay. I imagine there's probably a cost now since it's a third party. Okay.
It's
so
a profession. I mean, we're dealing with sewage. I would hope.
I know I have multiple of these on my property. I appreciate you answering my questions. So thank you very much, Madam Floor Leader. I would still press my amendment. I still believe that a top bar of $10,000 is extreme, especially given the state of affairs in our state right now fiscally for small businesses.
Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This has been a very good discussion, but I will tell you that cleaning up after a damaged septic system is one of the most expensive environmental damages to repair. I know a little bit about this because I work for a company that does underground tank removal and cleanup, and you can basically, our company can get a couple of weeks worth of payroll paid by one such job. This is very expensive. It's very damaging to the Chesapeake Bay and to the water system, and I would urge a red vote on this amendment.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question for the floor leader.
Delegate.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Almost lunchtime. Good afternoon.
Don't mention it, please.
Hey, looking through here, you mentioned that the new language in this bill, in the Senate bill.
Yes, Delegate.
It says each on-site sewage disposal system that an individual knowingly inspects without a valid on-site water property transfer inspection license is a separate violation of this section. How does that affect the property owner? Can the property owner no longer inspect his own septic system?
No, this actually protects the owner.
Well, the way I read those 2 paragraphs together, one individual who violates this provision is subject in this section is subjected to an administrative penalty not exceeding $10,000 fine. I'm confused. How's that play with the actual homeowner? Is the homeowner no longer allowed to dig up their septic to inspect it themselves?
Correct. I don't think you can do that anyway. I mean,
some do.
I hope
and they own the
MDE's not listening, but that would be somewhat of a violation.
It's a violation to try to repair your own septic system that you currently own.
Got it. So for clarification, if you want to dig up your own septic tank, that's on you. But this is about the folks who actually do the work. So we're regulating the people who already are doing the work.
Okay, so we're not regulating the actual homeowner.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Are you happy? Okay.
Madam Speaker.
Delighted.
Recognizing the gentleman from Talbot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So to me, when I read this bill, the problem wasn't the inspection, it was failing septic systems. So is the bill focused on regulating the haulers and the inspectors, or is it focused on trying to identify failing septic systems?
The inspectors.
It's the inspectors. So from my perspective, this bill is not focused on the inspectors because I'm very familiar with septic hauling. The reason you didn't hear any opposition is they are unaware, at least the ones in my district are unaware of this bill. I'm sure I can guarantee you full faith and credit that if they knew this bill was pending and there was a $10,000 penalty, you probably would have heard from them.
You said haulers, or is that the same as an inspector? So we're talking about
well-
inspectors, not haulers, delegate.
Right, right. There are some entities that fill both roles. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
So if you knowingly inspect a septic tank and you are not licensed to do so, then you would have a problem.
Correct, correct. But they're
Property
licensed.
transfers.
Yeah, they're licensed to do both. But we're, the ones, at least
So
the
I guess
individuals I know.
if they're licensed to do both and they have the on-site permit, then I'm not sure that there's an issue.
So as a property owner right now, can anyone come on my property and inspect my septic system or one of my constituent septic systems?
No, without being licensed. If this is not you, delegate checker, it'd be different than if you hired somebody to do so. So this is about the business of, not personally you.
Okay, well, I'm a little I just want to put it out there for you, and you
So
can
just
rebut
to
this.
clarify, this is for property transfers only, delegate.
This is just for property transfers. However, if someone is servicing a septic system and they have multiple licenses and they're required to report any problems with septic systems, and they're servicing a septic system, would they then be required to report that septic system?
Nothing to do with that, delegate. Not this bill. Transfers only, delegate.
That's not the way that I read the bill. I'll read it
Bill
again,
does,
and
delegate.
I don't want to belabor it, but I just want to share my concern with you. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
we know there are failing septic systems. We've got communities that are in situations, dire situations, with septic right now. And I think there's a great concern that all of a sudden these properties are identified as having failing septic systems. And you've already heard these are very expensive mechanisms. And the property owners in many of these places don't have the resources to replace or upgrade their septic systems. And the concern is that if we're requiring anyone who's servicing, because a lot of these folks play multiple roles, and they get this license, which they already do a good job of inspecting. But if they get this license, anywhere, anytime they come near a septic system, they're going to be filing reports, and they're going to be following the reports to the local health department. Right now, that means your septic system, if your septic servicer is licensed per this bill, then your septic system, every time it's pumped out, is being inspected, whereas right now there's no requirement. So maybe my concerns are wrong. I'll be voting against the bill.
No problem.
And I don't have a problem with regulating this, but getting back to the amendment, there, we're doing these bills right now, and I know it's humorous for a lot of folks, but,
Really not humorous.
We're in COVID, we're still in COVID world. And they're completely unaware that these bills are being debated. And everybody's going to wake up next week and they're going to read the report of what's going to the governor. And the folks that I've talked to in this industry were startled. Were startled when I explained it to them. And I hope you hear my concerns. I'll read the bill
and if I
again.
can just do you a favor and read directly from the short bill summary, is that this bill repeals the current law requirements related to the certification of those engaged in the business of property transfer inspections for septic systems, and instead requires that by July 1st, any person, unless exempted, who engages in the business of inspecting a septic system must obtain an on-site wastewater property transfer inspection license issued by MDE.
And I'm
Transfer.
And I've got you way off the amendment. This is probably for final passage. But
I understand.
The amendment, the $10,000 penalty is very excessive.
It is not a
especially-
$10,000 penalty. It is up to administrative penalty not exceeding $10,000. And to your point, and to the delegate before's point, is that, and to the chairman's point, septic systems are incredibly expensive. They are the largest appliance for those who have homes with septics, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars to replace. And so I would, while it says up to, it is the discretion of MDE to make that violation penalty, depending on what the violation is. Of course, it has to be inspected, and the standard is high because it's knowingly knowingly. You have to prove that someone knowingly did this, and therefore the standard becomes high. So we can't just give out, fines to just anybody because you didn't appropriately inspect to find out if they needed the violation to begin with.
And I did not intend to take it this far off the amendment.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Lady from Howard.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Howard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the floor leader, very, very quick question as
Yes, Delegate.
a follow-up. I think where perhaps the delegate and I both had some concerns, that is on page 2, line 10.
Are you on the reprint of SB 22?
I believe I am.
Okay. Page 2.
If page 2, line 10 starts C, on or after, I can just...
No. If you can tell me what it relates to, I can
Let me
maybe
just
read it back
it's
to
just,
you.
What it says in here is on or after July 1, 2022, an individual may not engage in the business of inspecting an on-site sewage disposal system unless the individual holds, et cetera, et cetera. That says he may
Yes.
not inspect any system to me. So if it's to be just
No,
for-
it says, no, Delegate, it says unless the individual holds a valid on-site water, wastewater, property transfer inspection license issued by the department. Property transfer.
All right. I believe that it will be interpreted that way. Thank you.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good to see you, floor leader.
Yes.
I do have a couple technical questions.
Yes, Delegate.
So right now, the local counties handle much of this for a good reason, because there's different types of septic system, whether it be mound system, whether it be nitrogen reducing system, whether it be a traditional system. And the reason they do that is because the soil is different in different areas of what they require.
Yes, Delegate.
So when it comes to the training, because I'm concerned people getting trapped in this, when it comes to the training, are they going to be trained to do septic inspections throughout the state, or is that going to be localized?
The regulations on page 2, line 24-2, the regulations adopted under this subsection shall require that 1, the training include instructions on determining whether an on-site sewage disposal system is 1, in need of replacement or repair, and 2, not in compliance with the statutory or regulatory requirements.
Well, I ask because sometimes you
So-
can be out of compliance in one county but not in another.
This is state.
Okay,
Right, so the permit would be issued by the state.
and one follow-up, because you said this is just on transfers.
Yes, sir.
So for instance, on a VA loan, the veteran, if he does a cash out, even though he's not transferring this house, he always has to get a well inspection and oftentimes a septic inspection. Would this then grab this inspection in as well? Or could anybody do that inspection?
I don't think I understand the question, I'm sorry. But you're
Oftentimes,
saying he's not actually transferring his
not
property.
transferring it.
Then it wouldn't
He's going to
apply, I
hold the
don't
property.
believe. It doesn't apply, Delegate.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Very quickly, I do support the amendment because I think the fine is excessive. But I did reach out to the company that a lot of people in my area use to do these types of inspections, and they're professionals at it. They do a great job. And he said that this license is important because there are home inspection companies that people hire that are clueless when it comes to actual septic systems. So they're basically taking money from people with very little expertise in septic systems. So and he mentioned a couple of names, which I won't. But I'm going to support the amendment, but I'm also going to support the bill. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that I know that there are actually people on this floor who are thinking of retiring to the Eastern Shore because it's so beautiful. So how many of you want to make sure that the septic system is working before you make this big purchase? I would ask you to vote against this amendment and for the bill because, you know, what the hell? Maybe I want to move to the shore to retire.
Gentleman from Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wasn't going to ask the question, but I became a little confused with all the discussion. I used to be what was called a sanitarian.
Yes.
And now it's an environmental specialist because it sounds better. But for 10 years of my life, one of my responsibilities, I worked in the environmental health section, the Garrett County Health Department, and one of my responsibilities was to do perk tests, to issue permits, and to regulate the installation and inspection of septic systems. Now, I understand it's been a while ago, so laws have changed since then, and we have more sophisticated devices that really aren't septic systems or little mini sewage treatment plants. But you mentioned in the bill that in order to inspect these systems, anyone inspecting these systems had to get a permit. Does this apply also to those people that are now called environmental specialists that work for the local health departments? Do they have to get a special permit, or are they required to get additional training to become sanitarians, or what now are called environmental health specialists?
No, it does not apply to them.
And there are a lot of counties, and I think in my county, I'm not. Let me ask this question: do all the counties in the state of Maryland have what you're referring to in this bill as people that are licensed to be inspectors to inspect these systems?
The way I understand this bill is that this bill sets the standard, and then localities can add to the standard.
And it's also my understanding that MDE does not come out. Maryland Department of Environment do not send people out to inspect individual septic systems.
That's correct. That's why they came up. They have the three individual, the three companies that they rely on for those to be trained and certified by.
The MDE has set up a program whereby they train
right.
these
They
people.
used to offer the course directly, and it's funny, it says like in parentheses like free. They no longer do that. They probably don't have the capacity. So they do have 3 approved third-party training courses listed on their website for those to be able to take in order to be certified.
But are all county health departments that issue permits for septic systems required to have people in their county to do these inspections, or can they do?
This only relates to the folks who their business is, I think, to the minority leader's point.
Right.
People who are in the business of this does not include any health department or governmental.
And just to follow up one more question.
Yes, sir.
When these people, these inspectors now that are licensed to do these inspections and are certified by, I guess, Maryland Department of the Environment.
Yes, sir.
When they go out and they find a problem and they then do they notify the homeowner? Do they notify the local health department? Or do they notify the Maryland Department of the Environment?
Well, Delegate, that's the part of the bill that MDE needs to set up that actual process by this coming January. And once that process is set up, application, the fees, who they're going to report to, then they will release that, and then come July, this bill would go into effect.
So I also understand that when there's a property transfer, number one, if someone's buying a piece of property that has a septic system, as the chairman would indicate, I want to make sure that system's working. So especially banks now require that if you're going to get a loan. So they require that the local health department certify those generally, at least in my section. So when a person that's an inspector that's covered under this bill goes out and does the inspection and finds something wrong, then are they required to notify the local health department, and then the health department in every case?
It's not what this bill does, one. Two, MDE will set up the full requirements of this bill as it relates to the intricacies come January of next year. So I think I hear what you're saying. I don't think that's this bill.
Yeah. So my point is.
So I think what I'm hearing, if I can clarify, I think what I hear you saying is that if upon transfer someone who is licensed goes and does an inspection, and if something is wrong, who would they then report to? Are they supposed to report to the state and or the health department? This does not specify that, and I would again say that MDE would set those specifications come January.
But currently, I think in every county.
Gentlemen, is this on the amendment, actual amendment?
I guess it probably would refer to the bill. So I think the gentle lady has answered most of my questions, and I understand a little
On
better.
the
So
amendment.
thank you very much, and
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
On the amendment, all in favor signify
Speaker.
by saying aye. Opposed?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Senate Bill 22 is on third reading and final passage.
Madam
Speaker.
Gentlelady from Carroll.
I just have a quick question. Does this apply to plumbers who are already licensed in the state of Maryland? Would they have to get an additional license?
If they're doing a property transfer, yes, they would have to get this.
Because many of our I know that the Maryland building industry had a concern about that because many of our master plumbers already go through extensive licensing and regulatory processes as part of getting their license for being a plumber, and they already go through all this training. So you're saying they would have to have a separate license?
If they're going to inspect the transfer, yes.
Was there any consideration of exempting them since they're already trained and licensed?
The consideration was taken, but it was decided that we would put in the extra precaution.
Could put in the what?
The extra precaution to assure that
Is there any possibility within the regulations that MDE could determine that they've already had the? We'd hate to have plumbers have to be licensed twice to do the same thing. So is there any way that they could exempt them if they already have met the conditions of this licensure?
the bill does say unless exempted. So again, those regulations will be then and specifically made in January. If MDE decides that those individuals would be exempted, they would make that exemption.
Thank you, because especially for newly licensed plumbers, you would hope that that's part of their training.
Absolutely.
You don't want to have two licenses.
And I think the point is that they're trained. So that's a good point. Thanks, Delegate.
Thank you.
Gentleman from St. Mary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I want to make sure I think we'd finally understand this bill. It's a little bit clear. So when a buyer purchases a home, it transfers the property. At that point, the person, buyer can elect to have a home inspection and inspect the septic system. This bill aims to regulate those people inspecting the septic systems, correct? By establishing a license. And if you are fraudulent in any way or found that, you can be fined up to a $10,000 fine.
Not to exceed $10,000, yes.
Not to exceed $10,000. My question is, just reading the bill again, because the language changed. If you're purchasing a property, are you now required to inspect the septic system?
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senate Bill 22 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 109 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 22, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 13. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 118, Vehicle Laws, Injury or Death of Vulnerable Individual Penalties. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. I'm sorry. I didn't let you read the bill. Okay. House Bill 118 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 118, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 407, on-site sewage disposal systems inspection licensing, amendment number 1.
Madam
Recognizing
Speaker,
committee chair.
We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 407 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, clerk will take the call. There being 111 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 407, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 16. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 768, Montgomery County Community Choice Energy Pilot Program, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The Senate amendments do three things. One, it clarifies the application of community choice to certain master metered multiple occupancy residences. It pushes back a number of deadlines by several months and requires the Montgomery County government to be solely responsible for certain costs. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 768 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 768, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1136, Anne Arundel County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses, Annual Fees, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The Senate amendments make the bill an emergency bill, describes the licenses that qualify for relief, and makes conforming and clarifying changes. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1136 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1136, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 110, Electric Vehicle Recharging Equipment for Multifamily Units Act, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
The question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 110 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 114 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 110, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 391, Solid Waste Management, Prohibition on Releasing a Balloon into the Atmosphere, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you. Would the floor leader just answer a quick question? So what does the bill do now?
It actually, I'll have the
floor leader.
Go ahead, Delegate.
Sorry, let me grab the right folder.
House Bill 391.
Okay, here we go. Sorry With exceptions, it prohibits a person from knowingly and intentionally releasing or causing to be released a balloon into the atmosphere, organizing or participating in a mass balloon release. The bill establishes a civil penalty up to $100 per violation for organizing or participating in a mass balloon release. And a person who violates the bill's prohibition against the knowingly and intentionally releasing or causing to be released a balloon into the atmosphere must watch an educational video and or perform community service as specified.
So is it helium balloon, or can I blow in a balloon and then, is it different? What's the difference?
Helium balloon, something that when you let go. Yeah, no. Yes, it's a helium
I
balloon.
can still blow a balloon myself and then release it, and that's okay.
It wouldn't go anywhere.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Gentleman from Baltimore County in the annex.
So if the floor leader could rise for a question, please.
Yes, Delegate.
So when I was in elementary school, one of the things we used to do every single year was a large balloon ascension that was put on by the Baltimore County school system, and we released thousands of balloons into the air. Will this bill be retroactive to go back and punish government for teaching
No,
us
Delegate,
how
you're
to-
safe.
You sure about that?
I'm sure
Because
you're safe, Delegate.
So-
Moving forward, Delegate.
Should I feel
Not in the past, Delegate.
Should I feel guilty and criminal? for
No,
releasing
that's between you and your
balloons into
maker.
the air?
You'll be okay.
I mean, would this be considered balloon privilege in the past, that I should now feel that I need to change my behavior?
You'll be fine. This is not retroactive. This is moving forward. You'll be okay. I promise you'll be okay.
So my children will be better if they never release a balloon in the air,
Well,
as I did when I was a child.
That's true, Delegate, and let me put it in this context. The releasing is intentional litter. What goes up must come down. And the famous story I like to talk about is the United Way, Cleveland, Ohio, Guinness World Record, where they released 1.4 million balloons to what ended up being a disaster. It ended up being a cold front that day. The balloons pushed back down to the atmosphere. It caused traffic accidents. It caused an airport to shut down. And it caused the United States Coast Guard to have to stop a search for 2 fishermen who washed up on the shore 2 days later. And so that is, while they got the world record, the Guinness World Record, all that 1.4 million balloons came down somewhere, and it came down all over the Ohio region and actually on the other side of Lake Erie in Canada. So it goes up, it comes down, and as we talked about with plastic, it doesn't go anywhere. So we don't want any more intentional litter, Delegate.
Well, having said that, I would like to say that sounds like that problem was actually caused by climate change and not the balloons. And with that,
I'm glad you recognize climate change. Thank you.
House Bill 391 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 103 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 391, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1010, Prince George's County, Payment in Lieu of Taxes Agreements, Low Income Housing, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
The question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1010 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1010, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1048, Election Law, Permanent Absentee Ballot List, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing Subcommittee Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments make the bill identical to SB 683, which is sitting on the governor's desk. I move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it. House Bill 1048 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1048, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 17, House bills amended in the Senate. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 114, Maryland Transit Administration Funding Transit Safety and Investment Act, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 conforms the bill to SB 199 by adding a provision to require a feasibility study on MARC extension to Western Maryland. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 114 is on third reading and final passage. Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader rise and give us an idea of what the fiscal note is on this as amended?
Floor leader, he's behind you.
Hi there. Good afternoon.
Sure. I don't think the fiscal note shouldn't change very much as a result of these amendments that were just added. All these amendments do is add a study of the Western Maryland rail extension. Honestly, I'd have to go look at the standalone bill that Senator Quarterman introduced on that to tell you what the study costs, but I'm guessing it's a couple $100,000.
Okay, but the rest of it from the original fiscal note is still there.
The third reader fiscal note, which should have been updated after we passed the bill, that has not changed.
Okay, so it's huge.
Yeah, we have a really significant safety backlog at the MTA that we need to fund and fix so that our buses and trains don't break down and our rail lines don't crack.
Okay, thank you.
House Bill 114 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 114, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 258, State Child Welfare System Reporting, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical and conforms the bill to the Senate cross-file. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 258 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 258, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 878, Bay Restoration Fund, authorized uses and county authority to incur indebtedness, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 conforms the bill to Senate Bill 701 by adding a provision to clarify the name of the account for Bay Restoration funding. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 878 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 878, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1173, Culvert County Public Facilities Bond, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 makes a change to correct a typo. Move to concur with the Senate amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to special order this until tomorrow.
Let us adopt the concurrence.
Okay.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you. Do over, Madam Speaker. I'd like to special order this bill till tomorrow.
Very good.
Thank you.
The question before the House is to special order HB 1173 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. Message from the Senate, House Bill 7. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 7, Venison Donation Expenses, Income Tax Credit and Grant Program.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate recedes from its position on House Bill 7. Said bill is returned herewith.
Yea and nay, consent calendar number 9. House bills passed in the Senate. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 28.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the reading of House Bill 28 be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
So ordered. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 139 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading Senate bills, number 48. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 5, Public Health, Implicit Bias Training, and the Office of Minority Health and Health Disparities.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 5, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 13, Certified Nursing Assistants, Certificate Renewal, Training Program Requirements.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 13, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 118, Correctional Services Warrant Apprehension Unit Transfer.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 118, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 146, Department of Juvenile Services Deputy Secretaries.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 146, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 267, Family Law, Investigation of Suspected Child Abuse and Neglect, Preliminary Report to State's Attorney.
It is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 267, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 342, Maryland Military Department, Sale of Superfluous Armories.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 342, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 46. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 78, Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services Systems, Administration of Ketamine, Data Collection.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 78, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 114, Criminal Procedure, Expungement of Conviction and Subsequent Offender Penalties, Driving while Privilege is Canceled, Suspended, Refused, or Revoked.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 114, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 270, Crimes, Indecent Exposure, Definition.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Charles.
Floor leader, please yield for question.
Committee chair.
Really? It's obviously an important bill. Could you just explain to our colleagues what this bill does?
Really? What the bill does is it establishes that the offense of indecent exposure involves engaging in an act of masturbation in public, whether or not the person's genitalia are exposed.
And one more question. So is there a definition for clarification purposes?
You need clarification?
Definition of, is there a difference between an itch, a scratch, an arrangement, or masturbation?
I hate to say this, but I actually need you to repeat the question.
Is there a difference between an itch, a scratch, a rearrangement, or masturbation, and how do we determine that?
I believe that a jury would know it when they saw it.
So this would be a jury trial question, a jury issue?
Actually, this isn't. Only if they appealed it or took a jury trial option from district court to
Thank
to
you
circuit
very
court.
much for your enlightenment, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? All right.
Senate Bill 270 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 270, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 641, State Retirement and Pension System, Fiduciary Insurance.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 641, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 642, State Retirement and Pension System, COVID-19 related death benefits, clarification.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 642, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 761, State Retirement and Pension System, Executive Directors, Membership and Vesting.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 761, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 922, Office of Legislative Audits, Acceptance and Investigation of Allegations of Fraud, Waste, and Abuse.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 922, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 44. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 85, Creating Governor's Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Gentlelady from Hagerstown in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for coming over and saying hello to us in the annex earlier.
You're welcome.
I have a question regarding this bill. Would that be the floor leader that would rise?
Yes, the committee chair.
Committee chair, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, committee chair. The question I have, well, first, many of you know I've stated before that my husband is an immigrant, came here from Guinea, West Africa, worked hard, studied for the test. He's now a naturalized citizen and very proud of him, as his family is back home. I had a question regarding the bill as I was reading it and the resources that it provides to immigrants. And forgive me, I don't mean to ask it in a way that might be offensive, but is the services and resources that are intended to be provided for people who are here illegally, or yes?
Committee chair.
Yes. All immigrants are entitled to know about certain services that are available. For instance, ESOL classes, or other services that we provide all immigrants, all citizens, regardless of their status. So there may be some few services that would be provided under this bill to people who are here, that reside in Maryland, that are immigrants, and want to access services. As an example, Esau to become a citizen of the United States. So the answer is yes, some. And I might note that the fiscal note on this bill is almost negligible. because these services and this position, which it creates, is going to be housed within the governor's office of, let me get the name, Office of Community Initiatives, and it will be a position that will have a unique role of reaching out to all immigrants who come into this state who need services that aren't otherwise provided within that office. The office has told us that they do many of these services already through different governor's commissions, like the Governor's Commission on African Affairs, Asian Pacific, Hispanic, South Asian, African American History and Culture, and Indian Affairs do many of these outreach services now. But this will be a unique and a new director that will look at all immigrants who may be falling between the cracks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one last question. Do we have any other government agencies, either at the state or, well, I guess not the state level, but at the federal level, that provide these same resources to immigrants?
Well, you know, the one that comes to my mind, first of all, is when you think about ESOL, when you think about training and help and to learn English and to go ahead and get a GED and possibly get a job or become a citizen of this country, our educational systems, yes, at every level provide some services, I think, to immigrants to try to move immigrants into a work environment and into a citizenship environment.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senate Bill 85 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 85, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 294, Cecil County Sales and Use Tax Exemption Federal Facilities Redevelopment Areas.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 294, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 413, Maryland Legal Services Corporation Funding, Abandoned Property.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 413, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 477, Enoch Pratt Free Library Operating Hours and Funding.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 116 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 477, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 526, Legal Education Success Collaborative, established.
is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 104 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 526, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 609, Economic Development, Maryland Industrial Development Financing Authority, Marketing Plan.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 609, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 720, Education, Maryland School for the Blind, Pay Plan.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 720, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, the calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 45. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 155, Higher Education, Tuition Exemption for Foster Care Recipients and Homeless Youth, Alterations and Reports.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 155, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 244, Maryland Funding, Accountability, and Transparency Act, Non-Budgeted State Agencies.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 244, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 405, Higher Education, Student Identification Cards, Required Information.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 405, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 439, Public Institutions of Higher Education, Student Athletes, Jordan McNair Safe and Fair Play Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 439, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 516, State Board of Environmental Health Specialist, Fees, General Fund.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 516, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 882, Operating Budget, Education Programs, Mandated Funding.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 115 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 882, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 913, Human Services Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Heat and Eat Program, and Study on Maryland Energy Assistance Program eligibility.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 110 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 913, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 51. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 327, Civil Actions, Financial Exploitation of Susceptible Adults and Older Adults, Maryland SAFE Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 327, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 509, National Capital Strategic Economic Development Program, eligibility.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 509, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 660, State Lottery Fund, Maryland Humanities Council, funding.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 660, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 699, Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative Program Fund.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 109 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 699, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 767, Higher Education Hunger-Free Campus Grant Program, established.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 767, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 47. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 86, Correctional Education Changes to Mandatory Education Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 86, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 109, Secretary of State, address confidentiality programs, merger of programs, and expanded participant eligibility.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 109, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 335, Courts, Non-Governmental Corporate Parties, Disclosure Statements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 335, having received constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 349, Environment, Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, Use of Funds.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 349, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 453, Allegheny County and Garrett County Archery Hunting Safety Zone.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 453, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 616, Baltimore City Soil Conservation District Authority to Establish.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 616, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means, report number 38. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 424, Public Financing Act, Matching Fund Revisions, Maryland Fair Elections Act. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments require small private contributions eligible for public matching funds to be from residents of the state rather than registered voters, alter the amounts of public matching funds provided for small private contributions, and make technical changes. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 987, Economic Development Comprehensive Technical Assistance Program Establishment. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments simply add to the mission of the program, helping businesses in getting outside capital. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1324, tobacco tax, out-of-state sales of premium cigars and pipe tobacco. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments make filters, rolling papers, pipes, and hookahs subject to a 12% sales tax instead of a 53% excise tax and make technical changes. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 310, election law, campaign finance entities, termination. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 415, Public Financing Act, Matching Fund Revisions, Maryland Fair Elections Act. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments require small private contributions eligible for public matching funds to be from residents of the state and make technical changes. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Question now is adoption of favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Recognizing minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's with a heavy heart that I'd like to request a special order of this bill to the appropriate time next session. Thank you.
Question before the House is, I'm sorry, floor leader. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is to special order SB 415 until the appropriate time next session. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 459, Economic Development Comprehensive Technical Assistance Program Establishment. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 480, Income Tax Distribution Tax Clinics for Low-Income Marylanders. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 transfers oversight of the grant program from the Maryland Higher Education Commission to the Comptroller's Office, strikes provisions transferring certain income tax revenues for the program for fiscal 22, and instead requires $250,000 of abandoned property funds to be distributed to the program, and authorizes the governor to include an appropriation in the annual budget year for the grant program for future fiscal years. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 622, Income Tax Subtraction Modification, Donations to Diaper Banks and Other Charitable Entities. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments simply conform the bill to the House cross-file, which passed this chamber unanimously. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 639, Maryland Technology Development Corporation Inclusion Fund Establishment. Favorable.
The question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. pass for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 659, Historic Revitalization Tax Credit, Small Commercial Projects, Alterations, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 769, Income Tax Credit for Venison Donation, Alterations, Extension, and Testing for Chronic Wasting Disease. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes provisions of the bill increasing the value of the venison donation tax credit, requires each venison donation program that accepts a donation for purposes of the tax credit to report information to the comptroller on or before January 31st of each year. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 787, Digital Advertising Gross Revenues Tax and Tobacco Tax, Alterations and Implementation. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 allows an income tax subtraction modification for certain utility arrearages forgiven during taxable year 2021 through grants provided to utilities under the Relief Act, clarifies the application and administration of certain provisions of law governing sales and use tax with regard to digital codes and digital products, and alters the definition of pass-through entities' taxable income for provisions of law concerning the state income tax imposed on pass-through entities. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Recognizing minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader rise, please?
Majority leader.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much. Can you kind of in plain English tell us what this is doing?
So it does a number of things. The way to think of this bill is this is a corrective bill to clarify some taxation issues that have arisen. It came over from the Senate with clarifications related primarily to the gross receipts tax on digital ads. The committee added 3 sort of major substantive components to it. One is that we created a new subtraction modification so that the utility arrearage assistance that we provided in the Relief Act would not be considered taxable income. 2, we clarified the legislature's intent in the application of the digital downloads tax that we had previously passed and made clear that we had intended certain things to be exempted from that tax. And 3, we added some clarifying language that will help administer and implement the PTE tax that was passed last year as a method for PTEs to avoid being
What's a PTE?
Pass-through entity.
Thank you.
To avoid being subjected to negative tax consequences from the federal government's capping of the state local tax deduction.
Okay, and is this addressing any of the lawsuits against this tax?
This does not affect the lawsuits on the digital advertising gross revenues tax.
And who was opposed to this bill? Who was in favor?
As amended or as originally introduced?
As amended.
So as amended, the Chamber of Commerce has been supportive, in particular the provisions having to do with the sales tax. All of the higher education institutions are supportive now because there are provisions of the digital downloads tax that affect higher education. The Press Association was supportive of the original bill because it made clarifications regarding taxation of newspaper and media outlets. But I can pull up, if you'd like, the committee testimony and go into more depth.
I can look at the committee testimony. I was wondering more about, did you bring the stakeholders to the table and get some agreement? And who is still opposed to it?
So I haven't heard specifically from anyone who's opposed to this bill. I think there are stakeholders that would have liked us to include further provisions in the bill that we chose not to include. But I haven't heard of any opposition to the bill as well.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you. I just have a simple question to the floor leader. You did mention that with the digital advertising tax with this bill, there are some exemptions. Who has been carved out?
In the digital advertising tax, so if you look at the reprint on the bill, or actually you can see the digital advertising components in the original version of the bill as introduced or as it came into the House. The carve-outs there, or the clarifications rather, relate to the media principally, and hold on just a second. So news media entities, and there's also language there that prevents somebody who, should the gross revenues tax end up being applied, if it survives the court challenge it's currently experiencing, then there are provisions that would prevent passing through the cost of that tax to consumers.
So does it apply to online media or all media, the carve-out?
So the language in that particular provision defines a news media entity as an entity engaged primarily in the business of news gathering, reporting, or publishing articles or commentary about news, current events, culture, or other matters of public interest. News media entity does not include an entity that is primarily an aggregator or republisher of third-party content. So it would, if there were an organization that fit that definition, that has more than $100 million of annual revenue from digital advertising, this would clarify that our intent is not for them to be taxed.
Got it. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 883, tobacco tax, out-of-state sales of premium cigars and pipe tobacco. Favor with amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments make filters, rolling papers, pipes, and hookahs subject to a 12% sales tax instead of a 53% excise tax. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 885, Economic and Community Development Income Tax Credit for Catalytic Revitalization Projects. Favor with amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to consider the reading amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 requires regulations adopted by the Department of Housing and Community Development to implement the Catalytic Projects Tax Credit to have an emphasis on applications that promote affordable housing, and require the governor to appropriate $12 million in each of the fiscal years 2023 and 2024 to the Historic Revitalization Tax Credit Reserve Fund. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 887, Property Tax Credit, Business Entities, State of Emergency. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass for third reading. Can the committee chairs please come forward? Can everyone please take their seats? Is she looking? Gentlelady from Howard? Frederick? Lord, Frederick, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am now the past president of the Women's Caucus, and I'm here today to announce to you our new executive board. Madam Speaker, permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you. So our president for the next year will be Delegate Ann Healy. So would you please stand? So our president-elect then will be Delegate Lauren Ericon. Our first vice president is Delegate Leslie Lopez. Our second vice president is Delegate Edith Patterson. Our secretary is Senator Addie Eckert. Our treasurer is Delegate Pam Queen. Our first member at large is Delegate Nicole Williams. And our second member at large is Delegate Brenda Cham. So, congratulations to all and good luck for the next year. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're quite welcome. Congratulations to the new commission members team. Special order calendar number 79. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 445, Vehicle Equipment, Safety Glass Replacement Standards. Favor report adopted.
Gentlelady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My questions have all been answered. Thank you so much.
No other further debate. The bill is ordered past the third reading. That ends the work at the desk. We will. I'm gonna get you. We will be coming in tomorrow at 10. We count on 2 sessions. This time, going to call on the committee chairs to provide any additional information. Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House Judiciary Committee will have a voting session at 6:30 p.m. tonight.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That committee will have a voting session at 3 p.m.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Environment and Transportation Committee will have a voting session at 3:30.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That committee will have a short voting session on 5 bills at 2:30, and the Revenue Subcommittee will meet at 2:05 on 1 bill. Thank you.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Economic Matters Committee will not meet.
Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet very briefly because there is a game in the annex following this floor session. So please just stay in the annex and we on the floor will go over and meet with you. Thank you.
Okay. Quorum called before adjournment.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There will be 136 members present. The House is still in session. Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand adjourned until Friday, April 9th at 10 a.m., Legislative Day, March